So this is Darcy's Corner. It's Monday, February 6th. I'm about to go to work here in a little bit, so I'm putting on my man clothes. Now, the reason I wear man clothes to work, I'm very out at work. They know exactly who I am, and they gender me correctly because I make them. But they're not opposed to it or anything. It's just hard for them to see me as me. And I'm not wearing any makeup. Sometimes I do wear makeup to work just because I already have it on or whatever. But I don't usually put on makeup just to go to work because I'm not trying to impress anybody there. And I don't need to be photogenic for that. So why am I recording this now? Well, because I'll forget later. And, haven't recorded one in a while. I misplaced this particular phone that I'm recording on right now. I think every device now has a camera on it and a video thing, but my other phones, if I record video, like 3 minutes in, the audio cuts out. That's on all my devices, it seems. Plus, they don't really have much memory, whereas this one I can record like an hour or 2 hours worth of video altogether. And I usually record 10, 15-minute sound bites and then upload those if I'm going to. And then I just delete them after I have so many and do it again. But yeah, my other ones, like if I get 10 minutes, that's a lot. So, and being as I don't use this particular device for anything except this now pretty much, and it's still connected to the internet, I can just upload directly to YouTube. And anyway, technical difficulties. I just got back from my BC trip a little bit ago, and I've talked about that before, but somehow I just don't think I did it justice when I talked about it the last time. My grandparents had a great big influence in raising me and in putting the values into me that I have today. Now, my parents were good parents and they were there, but in the early days, they weren't there as much because they were young adults who wanted to go out and have fun and wanted to just do things in life. And it was easier to drop me off at grandma's. And my grandma also had a day home. And so there was a billion toys there to play with. And I spent a lot of time with grandma and grandpa going fishing, going camping, building things. And so they're a huge part of who I am. And even talk about it now, I might start crying. The other day I got up in church and I bore my testimony again, like I do most Fast and Testimony Sundays. And I don't even know if that was appropriate for me to share that part of my testimony, but people seem to be okay with it, which is good. And I just got up there, and first I talked about another branch member she says, I'm older now, I'm trying to do this stuff online, and it's really hard. And I said, well, when I first got involved with the church almost 20 years ago, I had to order some things online for the church stuff, and they showed up in Braille because I checked the wrong box. So at the time I did that, I was like 23 or 24, which is what I told this older church member who was concerned about struggling with the computers and stuff. I'm like, yeah, age doesn't matter. We all have problems with this stuff. Anyway, but then I went on to talk about my grandparents and my grandfather in particular. And they always taught me kindness. Now, they're flawed. Even today, my grandfather is flawed. When I was down there visiting him, he was saying racist things and he was saying smart things. And he's a very loving man. He really is. And even though he says racist things, we have mixed race people or other races in our family who they've adopted in because they just put their arms around him and said, you come over here and you come to our house and you come over to our place for Easter or for Christmas and we'll go to your weddings and we will give your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren money at their birthday because we love them. So even though they are a little bit racist, they still love everybody and they still do their best to not be racist in their actions. But sometimes their words are a little bit. But nonetheless, in spite of their flaws, they've taught me a great deal of love and acceptance. But they're a little bit homophobic. And I wasn't sure how they were going to react to me because that's part of the reason why I didn't come out as a kid. But more my parents and my grandparents' homophobia held me back. But still, I didn't know how Grandpa was going to react to me because he hadn't seen me prior to my transition, and I didn't really know how he felt about me being me. And I went down there and I saw him, and because he's on oxygen now, he has his mind back. His he was getting really bad dementia before because he wasn't getting enough oxygen to his brain, and it's just because of the hard life he lived working in the mill and around chemicals and things that poisoned his lungs. Plus, he's been a lifelong smoker. They had to take his cigarettes away from him so he wouldn't blow himself up with his oxygen tank, um, which is good that his cigarettes are taken away and that he doesn't have, and they put him on the patch and things. But he's been trying for years to quit with the patch and gum and vapes and the whole, you know. But for now, anyway, he is not smoking. And he was himself when I went and saw him. He was making the same jokes that he always made and aggravating Grandma in the same way that he always did. And it's adorable to watch them interact with each other. And he'll do things just to make her mad. And she gets mad because she is who she is. But he loves her exactly as who she is. And like that's how they play. But it was great. And before I left, as I was leaving, I'm aware that they're 83. Now they could make it to 93 or 103, but this also could be the last time I ever talk to them or see them. And what my grandfather said to me, the last thing he said to me was, "I'm glad you came. Please come back. And next time bring Connie with you." Connie's my wife. We're not together anymore, but we are still very good friends. And they love her a lot. Anyway, kindness costs nothing. Now, they misgendered me the whole time I was down there, and they wouldn't use my name because they didn't want to call me Darci, but they didn't want to offend me either by calling me Dave or Davy. But that was good enough. I'm glad you came. Please come again. Anyway, that's what I said to my church congregation. And I'm so lucky to have people like that in my life. I want to get into painting more, and I want to paint a picture of salmon going through the river when they're at the end of their life cycle, when their colors have changed, and they're not dead yet, but they're on their way out. Because Grandpa used to take me as an adult. He would take me up to these spots that he knew on where he used to live, and because we're far north from the Pacific, but the salmon swim up north, up those creeks and up those rivers to spawn, but then they keep going up even after they've spawned because they just don't know what else to do, and they're just hanging out, waiting to die. They're at the end of their life cycle, but they're very beautiful. They've changed colors because their skin's rotting, and it's like orange and brown and whatever. It's not like but they're very beautiful to look at in the water. They look like the leaves on the trees when they start to turn. And my grandfather, basically, at this point in time, is a salmon at the end of its life cycle. And he seems to be at peace with it. He said repeatedly to Grandma and myself when I was down there, "I'm just going to live until I die." And he's lived a long life. And for an 83-year-old man, he's very healthy. And he has his mind. At least he did while I was there. And what more can any of us ask? Anyway, that's my Darcy's Corner for today. I'm going to have to go to work here real quick. But I wanted to record these thoughts while they're on my mind and share them with the world. And hopefully this does somebody some good somewhere. And if not, it's great personal therapy for me. So, anyway, Darcy's Corner. Peace.